So for my sewing part, I'll be using a cotton animal print fabric and a black lining, and also I'll need a tape measure, pins, scissors, and my patterns, and of course a machine. I did my layout putting in mind that my front has to be on fold, and I ended up using less than 1 meter because it's just something small, so the fabric that I used was less than a meter. And here is my layout. So I'm going to pin my patterns on the fabric and do my cutting process. Just wanted to increase a bit of my front piece, so I just increased it at the hem allowance with 1 inch down, so that it could be a bit not too short and not too long. Here I was just cutting my pieces and preparing them so that I can be able to go to the machine and start my stitching process. So those are the patterns that you'll need. I had already cut them out and also did the cutting for my lining. So I used the same patterns to cut out my lining pieces. So I took my back piece as well and also did the same thing that I did on my front piece, and also here I stitched the center back as well. So here I ironed some interfacing on my collar so that it can be able to be firm and stand well on the neck points. this point, I turned my front piece inside out and ironed the seams flat so that my cape would look good and neat. So you have to iron down the hem side, the neckline, and also at the shoulder point so that your work can look good and neat. So you'll do that for both the front and the back and also the sleeve. At this point, I pinned my collar, my main collar, to the lining because I didn't want the lining and the main collar to be of the same fabric. So I used the lining with the black fabric. So here I was just sewing them together and later on snip my corners and turn it inside. Remember, the same seam allowance you added to your patterns is the same seam allowance you will use while stitching your cape. At this point, I was lining up my front and my back piece so that I can be able to stitch at the shoulder point at a seam allowance of 1 centimeter. this point I was lining up my collar to my neckline so that I can be able to stitch my collar onto the body of the cape. So I was pinning to ensure that everything is on its point while I'm stitching. Nothing or no fabric will move around. So I was just stitching it so that it can be easier for me while I'm sewing it down. Since my collar was my neckline was a bit curved, so you have to snip it so that the collar would lie well and straight. So at that point later on I finished that area with my zigzag stitch since I don't have an overlocker machine. Till that point I was excited because it was coming out well, and now at this point I'll be attaching my sleeve for both the left and the right hand side. So at this point I was just notching so that I can be able to know the center point and align it to where my shoulder point is and pin, and later on stitch everything. Thank you so much guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you really enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, and also don't forget to subscribe, yeah, and hit that bell icon that will appear, and see you on my next video. Bye guys.